In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Lord, graciously give us your Holy Spirit. Guide us from within. Give us your light, your discernment. Incline our heart and our will toward yours. We ask you this through the powerful intercession of Our Lady, who is always present among us. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and in the hour of our death. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, good evening, everybody, or afternoon, or good morning, and welcome back to this long course, reading and studying St. John of the Cross. We are still in Book 2, Ascent of Mount Carmel, and we are now in chapter 11, starting paragraph 4, where we left it the other day, talking about all the different communications that God give us, how St. John of the Cross addresses the issue. And I promised last time to read just a passage from one of his beautiful spontaneous prayers in his writing. So let me share with you this beautiful passage where we'll see how we can understand it. Sorry for that. Here it is. This prayer, as you certainly remember from the beginning of this course, is a famous prayer called Prayer of a Soul Taken with Love. Where do you find it? First, if you want to find it back again, on the website, I copy-pasted on the website. So you go to articles, you click John of the Cross. Where is St. John? Here, St. John of the Cross. You click on it, and then you choose Prayer of a Soul Taken with Love. Of course, it's the it's here, somewhere here. You click on it, and then here, Prayer of a Soul Taken with Love. So this is the John of the Cross text. So here, I won't read the entire prayer, but I would like just to ponder on one point, which is a little bit what we are seeing these days with his text in the chapter 11. No, you receive allegedly a grace or a perception in your sense, through your senses, vision, hearing, or tasting, or sensing, and so forth. And then we are drawn by it, and the risk for him is then we are going astray. We are dwelling outside. We are just dealing with some crumbs. So look at what he says here. It's very beautiful here. What do you ask then and seek, my soul? So he is talking to his own soul. What do you ask and seek? Yours is all of this, and all is for you. Do not engage yourself in something less. Why? Oh, everything is mine because Christ is mine. No, yours is all of this, which is the sinners, heaven, earth, the angels, the Mother of God, and everybody. All these are mine. Why? Because Christ is mine and all for me. I do apologize for the size of the text is too small. I'm trying to make it a bit bigger for your eyes. Sorry about that. So as you can see here, this is what he says here. God himself is mine and for me. So all these, the Mother of God, the sinners, the just, the angels, the saints, and so forth, are mine because Christ is mine and all for me. But where is Christ? He's deep in you, and you can access him. I'm just connecting this text with what we are seeing in his teaching. Christ is mine, and I can access Christ through faith. That's the key for John of the Cross. God is available. God is accessible. God wants to give himself to you. So why aren't we receiving him? So look what he says to his own soul, to himself. Why do you ask then and seek? Sorry, what do you ask then and seek, my soul? Yours is all of this, and all is for you. Do not engage yourself in something less. That's the point here. If I feel something or see something, etc., I'm going outside. These are crumbs that fall, in case it comes from God. These are crumbs that fall from God's dwelling place. So why am I engaging with them? Nor pay heed to the crumbs which fall from your father's table. He's alluding to the story that Jesus tells in the gospel. No, the poor man who would have loved to eat any crumbs, or when the lady, the Syrophoenician lady, says the little dogs eat from the crumbs that fall from the table of their masters. Do not pay heed to the crumbs. The crumbs here are anything that we can perceive through the senses, not through faith. Through faith goes directly to the spirit. Go forth. What is go forth? It's the act of faith. God is accessible. Go forth and exult in your glory. Hide yourself. God is hiding deep inside of the soul. You see the beginning of spiritual canticle. First stanza. You left me and went. And where are you? And he describes where God is in the human being. And he says that God is at the center of the human being. So hide yourself where? Where God is hiding. Where God is hiding is deep in me. How can I access this area? Through faith. See the logic, how everything is interconnected. Hide yourself in it. Your glory is deep in you. And rejoice. Faith allows you to access God, therefore rejoice. And you will obtain the supplications of your heart. Remember, yeah, or you can read the text now. Mine are heavens. Anyway, you can reread the text and see the desires of the soul. So this is the thing I want to say. Why delaying? Do not engage yourself in something less. Do not engage yourself in something less. Nor pay heed to the crumbs. Go forth and exult. You see the movement of John of the Cross advice. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this. And there are other very beautiful passages in his works where suddenly he stops and says, why are we not paying attention to all this? He has a beautiful one. Maybe next time then I will find it for you. In the Living Flame, a very beautiful and powerful one, where he sort of like explodes. Why, if God is giving us all this, why we are not there for him, and so forth and so forth. A true proper exclamation from somebody who knows what God is preparing for each one of us. So now let us continue. Yeah, this is chapter 11, paragraph 4. We continue exactly where we left it. We were talking about the devil has more influence in what is exterior, corporeal, and can deceive a soul more easily because it's his domain, the palpable and material things. Here, number 4. And the more exterior are these corporal forms and objects in themselves, the less they do profit the interior and spiritual nature. So this is why he says they're probably more likely that they're from the devil than from God. This is the previous assertion here, no? More likely to be from the devil than from God. So he's explaining here, the more they are exterior, accessible to the senses, 5 senses, these corporeal forms and objects in themselves, the less they do profit the interior and spiritual nature. Why? How can we profit? How do we profit? We profit by receiving God in the depth of our spirit. So if I'm looking outside, I'm not profiting. I think it's easy to understand why I'm clinging to material things. Now, they the less the prophet interior and spiritual nature, because he explains, because of the great distance and the lack of proportion existing between the corporeal and the spiritual. Simple reasoning. You received something, it's felt, it's visible, it's sensed, you heard, you smelled, you whatever you saw. But what you saw is less, the distance between what you saw, what you perceived, and the spiritual is big. This makes us think of sometimes what Jesus says, and he will mention it below. He say, when Jesus says, it is for your good, it's better for you that I go. In the Last Supper in St. John, he says, better for you to go, or that I go. And he talks to St. Mary Magdalene. When he appears to her, he said, don't touch me. Why? Because where I want you to go, where you can access, the place that you can access, which is God or my divinity, is accessible through faith, not through touching. You see, so it's the same logic. Remember, and one thing he doesn't mention, that he mentions these 2 points, but another point he doesn't mention, which is the following. The Pharisees, or people who didn't believe in Jesus, they saw him. So what is a corporeal vision? They saw him, they didn't believe. So imagine you see Jesus, no? Of course, how lovely, how beautiful. But what will happen? You'll tend to be stuck there with what you saw, one vision. It will stay with you for the rest of your life, and you will come back to it. While faith is giving you a deeper vision, a deeper vision. Do you see the logic here, the danger? This is why, to a certain extent, we are a little bit like the apostles. They had Jesus, is true, which is an amazing grace. We're sure about that. But still, we need to be careful, because they had to believe as we are called to believe. They couldn't rely on the visible. This is why he said, I have to go, because if I don't go, you will not reach me in a deep way. This is me adding to the gospel. God forgive me, no? If I don't go, then you won't be able to reach the depth of my being. Hence, the entire plan, for instance, of the Gospel of St. John, it is set up in a way to allow us to reach the depth of Jesus and see his glory. It's available for everybody. It's given, you see. So if we stay with Jesus for 30 years, for 40 years, I mean, physical Jesus, we're not, the huge risk is that we will not progress. This is why it was important for him to go. And this is why St. Paul says, I don't know, even though St. Paul never met Jesus physically, but there is a stage in the beginning where we know Jesus a little bit physically, no? So he says, I don't know Jesus anymore humanly, which means I have a different knowledge of Jesus. So I went from the initial one to the following one. That's fundamental here, you see. So we need always to remember, there are people who saw Jesus, but they didn't believe. So if we are so enchanted or attracted by a vision, or I saw Our Lady or saw Jesus, but there are people who saw him, nothing changed in their life, unfortunately. I would almost say that seeing him was more of an obstacle, because they saw in him the human being, and they struggled to go deep into the divine of this apparent man. I say apparent because he's God incarnate. He's not a man. He has a human nature, absolutely yes, full human nature, but he's not a man, like a person, like a human person. He is a divine person incarnate. You see, that's normal faith of the church. I'm not inventing anything. You see, so to a certain extent, it's even more difficult, because they're wondering, who is this man? You see it in the apostles in the gospel, no? When Jesus stops the storm, no? They are in the middle of the lake, and then Jesus stops the storm, and they wonder, who is this one who can command to the storm and it stops? Who is the one who can do this, and that? You know, when they witness his miracles, including the apostles, they are in awe. They marvel. They say, "Oh, wow, who?" But then the question is here: who is this man? So you see the difficulty. We are all called to enter deeper and deeper in Jesus. Jesus has a human nature, but the human nature can reverse its effect by becoming an obstacle instead of being an icon or a stained glass toward his divinity. This is why St. John builds his entire gospel as a climbing or steps that allow us to enter layer after layer deeper in Jesus himself until we reach his divinity. This is why he considers that being there in front of his passion, being crucified there, he considered that this is the glory, the manifestation of the glory of God. You see? So why I'm saying all this? I'm saying all this just to show you one extra example, one extra logic of facts, which is seeing Jesus doesn't necessarily mean progress in faith. It could even become an obstacle. You see, I hope you understand what I'm saying. No? The Pharisees saw him, they didn't believe. And John is very fair in showing all the panel of variety of reactions. Some were enthusiasts, some were enthusiasts in a superficial way, some doubted, some rejected, some stopped following him. You have all the different options in the reactions toward Jesus. But of course, he wants us to continue and go deeper. John, I'm talking about the Gospel of St. John. Sorry for that. It's just to show you that seeing doesn't add really anything. We are, wow, oh, this person is seeing the Our Lady. Okay, well, you can see, of course, it's a grace. If you see Our Lady, yes, but then what? You still have to activate the act of faith. This is why the other day I said about Bernadette, Saint Bernadette, she struggled at a certain point. Why? Because you still have to believe. It's not because you saw Our Lady that you are dispensed from believing. Do you understand what is at stake here? So, the great distance and lack of proportion existing between the corporeal and the spiritual. For although there is communicating by their means a certain degree of spirituality by these manifestations, exterior manifestation through the senses, as is always the case with things that come from God, much less is communicated than would be the case if the same things were more interior and spiritual. You see, because the objection is here, it's like, well, it came from God and it helped me. We had this conversation. No, it still helps a little bit. The beginner, no, it helps. He says yes, but be careful because the more they are exterior, the less they help. They would help if they are more interior, which means entering in layers, in deeper layers of our being. He's not talking about the highest layers in us, but he still says deeper layers, deeper than the five senses. Okay, so here, of course, it applies to this type of apprehension or perceptions, and thus they very easily become the means whereby error and presumption and vanity grow in the soul. The old man in us is very much alive, unfortunately, is still at this junction. And what happens is that it can inflate our ego. Vanity grow, presumption. It is subtle, but it is real. Of course, a master of spiritual life like him will spot it easily. Why? Because it's there. It's like the person, pride, spiritual pride will grow here. No, presumption, as he says. No, I saw, or I went, or I did, or this happened, or I don't know. Our Lady smiled at me, or I don't know. Since they are so palpable and material, they stir the sense. Strangely here, St. John of the Cross doesn't say senses. The translator here puts senses. The Spanish says sentido. Mueven mucho al sentido, singular. One, sentido, the general, the sense. It covers everything. It covers the entire area, outer area. Since they stir the sense greatly, and it appears to the judgment of the soul that they are of greater importance because they are more readily felt. The impact on the sense is stronger than something that is more subtle, which means more interior. No, if something hits your ears, a noise, or your eyes, you see something, this has a greater effect, which then, in fact, sadly, is helping less. No, it's less useful. As they are so palpable and material, they stir the sense greatly, and it appeals to the judgment of the soul that they are of greater importance. This is the catastrophe. They appear to the judgment of the soul. A very interesting expression here. It appears to the judgment, which means how you see it, how you perceive it, of greater importance. It's like, yeah, but you see the sun moved. It's very important. Or this happened. Very important. No, why? Because the impact on the sense is greater. Therefore, and we judge with our own means. And here, the information coming from the sense, the impact of it on us is greater. You see. Thus, the soul goes after them. Human weakness. Human weakness. How many? We travel, we go, we want to see. Thus, the soul goes after them, abandoning faith. Where you are, you don't need to travel. You can make the act of faith and access God and benefit much more. Of course. To whom can you say that? Abandoning faith, which means the act of faith that allows you to access God and receive God and so forth. And thinking that the light which it receives from them, from these apprehensions, is the guide and means to its desired goal, which is union with God. Utter catastrophe. You will think that these things, the light I'm receiving from it, from whatever I saw, not only is supporting my weak faith, but is, and so they were really literally going astray here, is the guide and means. La guía y medio. Guide and means of its desired goal. And what is the desired goal? God. Which is like nonsense. It's like, this is not the right means to reach God. So you see how he's describing the movement of going astray because of such thing. Why he opposes it. But the more attention it pays to such things, the further it strays from the true way and means which are faith. You see the sentence? True ways and means which are faith. I mean, better conclusion than this or better summary than this is you can't find. No? The true way and means to reach God, to reach union with God, is faith, because it allows you to access God, while all these things are pulling you astray. And besides all this, when the soul sees that such extraordinary things happen to it, it is often visited insidiously and secretly by a certain complacency, so that it thinks itself to be of some importance in the eyes of God, which is contrary to humility. Humility goes with faith, and faith goes with humility. So he is describing what he said a little bit above, which is about the error and presumption. Here, insidiously and secretly. It's very important here, secretly. It's like the person is not aware of it. It is visible for somebody, you know, looking from outside. Yeah, well, it's visible. No, it's person is like the ego, the spiritual ego is becoming inflated. And this is the most dangerous sin, by the way. No, spiritual pride has no solution. This is me talking, of course, not John of the Cross. Spiritual pride has no solution, no hope. Why? Because the person cannot listen to you. Human pride has still a solution, because it can come from a spiritual person who then is considered more important or of greater authority. But when we reach, God forbid, spiritual pride, that's the end. This is why spiritual life has also its sort of downfall aspect. No, spiritual pride is the most terrible thing that can occur to a human being. It's not natural pride, which exists, of course. No, people who think they are something, no, or somebody. No, I'm talking about spiritual pride, because spiritual pride, you close the door to listening to advice and leading to conversion and change. You won't be able to change because you are closed to the change by the spiritual pride. This is why humility is very, very, very important. It counters this attitude and allows the person to listen, to hear, to find God through an advice, through a priest, through a spiritual guide, through whatever. But if we inflate too much the spiritual pride, they think itself to be of some importance. This can be inflated excessively. Be careful. This is the beginning. It can be something small, but then you add another one, and the devil starts to turn to work. Oh, he has greater freedom then. And then that's the end of it. So it's very easy for the devil to make us think that we are somebody spiritually, not humanly. Humanly, we can still find a solution, but here, then he's in fact closing all the doors. It's a very, it's a horrible, but very intelligent tactic from the devil to finish the person. No, it's like inflate the ego. Inflate the ego. Like they are sure that this person it's the end of this person, because this person will never listen. Well, to whom the person will listen? No. I always tell the story. I can't tell it because it's not here in the UK. A young girl entered in a community. I won't mention which type of orders, no need for that. Contemplative one. And she had visions. And the founders of this order also had visions. So who are you to condemn a person who has vision? If your founder has a vision, so what's the point? It's the same, so it's acceptable. This girl was just starting religious life. But in the name of her visions, and in the name of the fact that visions are allowed then because the founder or the founders had visions, she started to sort of know better and be convinced that she knows better than even her mistress of novices. What is the solution here? There's no solution. You open the door and let her go. Because she will never listen, because she's convinced that she's right. She's having visions. You don't have visions. You are the mistress of novices and you don't have visions. So you are nothing in her eyes. And she's so full of this conviction that she's right and she has the visions. And of course, the devil is playing like a cat plays with a mouse here with her. That's the end. There's no solution. The only solution is open the door and let her go. She likes it or not, you know. She's just starting and she's commanding. I mean, you understand? You understand the point here? There's no solution. You can't give her advice because she will not listen, because she knows. You don't know and she knows, as if knowledge was the key. No, that's the end. So no discernment, and they open the door and they let her go. It's a true story, by the way. Yeah? Now, so I'm not talking airy-fairy things. So humility is fundamental. Humility is fundamental in spiritual life, because this then can save us, can allow us to listen, can allow us to change, can allow us to convert, can allow us to progress. But you see, the devil is inflating, because he wants to stop at any cost the human being. And God allows that. Be careful. We believe in one God. We don't believe in two gods, one good and one bad. We believe only in one God. So you can ask, well, why God allows this? Well, God allows this because he wants humility, he wants faith. We're not offering it. Well, then you have the result of the effects of your acts. Okay, so it's very important to ask for humility. No, ask the Lord, beg the Lord, Lord, give me, please graciously, give me humility. Ask the saints to intercede for you, Saint Joseph. Please obtain for me always. Not, it's not once and forever. No, always, Lord, give me more and more humility, because the humbler, the better. Our Lady is at the bottom, our Jesus is at the bottom, so we still have a journey to reach them, no? Bottom of scale, good scale of humility. The devil too knows how to insinuate into the soul a secret satisfaction with itself. You know? John of the Cross knows the story, which at times becomes very evident. Yes, and sometimes laughable, but it's there. So the devil knows. It's one of the tactics. It's not the only tactic, but it's one of the tactics for spiritual people. Many people think they know. Many people think they know even better than the Pope and better than the bishops united with the Pope and so forth. So they declare things and that, and many theories are going around, especially with the internet nowadays. It's a disaster, a proper disaster nowadays, all what is circulating amongst spiritual people. These are not bad people. These are people who are engaged in the proper journey. But strangely, it's not safe. It's not necessarily safe. It's not because I am a good person, or I want to be a good person, that everything that I will do will necessarily be good. It has to be checked. It has to be discerned. You see, and here the work of the devil, he leaves the others, no, because he wants these guys to fall. He doesn't want the rest. The rest are already on the floor. He wants the one who climbed. So he goes there, or the one who go deeper. So he goes after them and try to insinuate. So the more you put spiritual pride, the more this person will be yours. And as he says, insinuate, secret. Above, what did he say? Secretly, insidiously and secretly. You see, the person is not aware of this, and will not be aware of this, because so full of himself or herself. Wherefore he frequently represents these objects to the senses. Therefore, the devil will do that. So if the person now he has this tendency, propense, you say?
Propensity.
Propensity, thank you very much. God bless you. Propensity toward these things, then you are nourishing your tendency, and therefore, as a consequence, you're feeding and allowing the devil to play even more, give you more, an illusion, and then you can lose your mind even. You can lose your brains. You can lose your common sense. You can. It could be damaging, and it's not that uncommon. So I'm happy with that. The devil gives me more. And there are plenty. I mean, the devil can play 24/7 with this. Wherefore he frequently represents these objects. Let me. Muchas veces pone, put in front, represents these objects. Put in front, like a prey. These objects to the senses. Setting before the eyes figures of saints and most beauteous lights. Beautiful, fabulous lights. And before the ears, this is before the eyes, figures of saints. Before the ears, words very much dissembled, dissembled, hidden words, like secret words, secret words, disimulados, and representing also sweetest perfumes, delicious tastes, and things delectable to the touch. I don't think the world changed from the time of John of the Cross and ours. It's always the same story, repeating itself. To the end that by producing desires for such things, he may lead the soul into much evil. So he's describing the tactic of the soul toward a spiritual person. It is a real danger. And the more the person goes in this direction, the less the person will listen. If you said to the person, no, remember what we saw the other day, what it was the other day, he said, must never rely upon them. You remember that? We saw that the other lesson, the previous lesson. Must never rely on them. So go and say that to the person who's receiving all these things. Or accept them. Oh, even worse. Don't accept them. It's like, why I don't accept them? This is fabulous. This is coming from God. You must always fly from them. Fly from them. This is what I desire most. You see, without trying to ascertain whether they be good or evil. That's another thing. You see. So let us go back to where we were. Where is it? Sorry, I lost the. No. It's up. Sorry, I'm just.
Jean.
It's four. Yeah, it's here. It's here. No. Yeah.
Jean, what do you mean by most beauteous lights?
Beautiful things. It's showing them, like we say, oh, I saw the sun and I saw an apparition. So I saw a beautiful light, a hazy light behind them, or I saw something very beautiful. God appeared in a beautiful light, indescribable, you can't, etc. Beauteous, no?
Okay.
In Spanish, resplandores hermosísimos. Hermosísimos, most beautiful. Resplandores, lights, glorious lights.
Yeah, so it's more literal than figurative. I get it. Okay.
It is all literal. Be careful. This is the senses. Don't take this spiritually, even though he will address more interior lights. But now we're starting with the basic layer, the senses, and then he will go more inwardly. You see, he goes from the exterior layers to the deepest layers. So just bear with him, okay? You wanted to say something? No? Martin? No. So, to the end that by producing desires for such things, so he may lead the soul into much evil. So it's like, as we say in French, boule de neige. How do you say that? It's like a snowballing, no? Is it snowballing? It's like the more it rolls, the bigger it becomes, and the more you go into it, the more you're taken by it, and the more you want, and it never ends. So the person then is got literally astray. This is not God. And look what he says now here. These representations and feelings, therefore, must always be rejected. They must always be rejected. If you say that to some people, they will send you away. No, they won't hear you. Because how dare you say that? No. For even though, and here we need to study the analysis he's making. Even though some of them be of God, he is not offended by their rejection. Because you might say, no, objection, Your Honor. He might be offended. He gave me this grace and now I am rejecting it, so I'm offending God. He says, no, he's not offended by your rejection, because your rejection is combined with an act of faith. It's not just rejection, it's rejection for the sake of a better movement, opposed movement, 180 degrees. You need to follow all his reasoning. You need to read between the lines. Nor is the effect, and here I need all your attention, nor is the effect and fruit which he desires to produce in the souls by means of them. Which means if you reject them, you are not losing the effect. If they're coming from God, you are not losing the effect. Ah, that's interesting here. And the less surely received, because the soul, nor is the effect and fruits which he desires to produce in the soul by means of them any less, it's not and, it's any less surely received, because the soul rejects them and desire not. So you are not diminishing what you are receiving. Sorry for that. If you reject them, you are not losing anything. Now he will explain. He will explain. That's really a key passage that not only is useful in the treatment of this type of communication, but of the majority of all the other communications. Remember, last lesson I said, we start now a new section, the second part of the book, of the second book of Ascent of Mount Carmel, where he will apply it. And I said, try to remember now, try to extract the rules, the laws of discernment. And we are on one of these points, important points, laws of discernment. If you reject it, you're not, in fact, not receiving the grace. The grace is automatically given to the Spirit. He will explain that right now. The reason for this is that corporeal vision, like I saw physically. Corporeal vision means I saw Jesus physically and I can describe him. He was wearing this, the color of his skin was like that, and so forth. Vision or feeling in respect to any of the other, or feeling in respect to any of the other senses, or any other communication of the most interior kind. You see, it covers all the other interior kind. So it's not only the exterior one, but it covers the rest. This criterium of discernment. Look what he says. This is underlined in red and yellow here, please. If it be of God, if it is from God, it produces its effect upon the spirit, because this is the first area in our being that God meets and nourishes when he gives any grace. Any grace. This is a very interesting principle that you hardly find in other books or in other authors. He says that anything that God gives us, if it comes from him, it nourishes first the spirit. So it produces its effect upon the spirit. When? At the very moment when it appears or is felt. Which means you don't even have time to reject it. It already realized its effect. This advice is gold and very important, because it helps then unfold the rejection movement. Otherwise, you will say, oh, when then, and how shall I reject? He says automatically, if you noticed it, if it comes from God, if it doesn't come from God, no. But if it comes from God, it already operated its effect in the spirit. God nourished you already, gave you the essential part of the grace. What you saw is not the essential part, but your spirit saw or received the essential part above your perception, above your consciousness. So, if it be of God, it produces its effect upon the spirit at the very moment when it appears or is felt, without giving the soul time or opportunity to deliberate whether it will accept it or reject it. So it happens almost like first thing. It So you don't have still, you didn't have yet time to think or react or anything. It's already operated. So if you decide afterward to reject it, you're not rejecting the grace of God. You are rejecting the temptation to be, I know I said temptation here, but you understand what he's trying to say, the temptation to be dragged out toward the physical or material things. And he doesn't want us. He wants us to go with faith toward God. It's 180 degrees the other opposite direction. 4, even as God gives these things supernaturally, even if, because people will say to you, but this came from God, why would I reject it? Say, imagine they know that for sure that it's coming from God. Well, that's already an act of pride, but forget about that. Say they know. So why would I reject it? I shouldn't reject it. He said, even if as God gives these things supernaturally, without effort on the part of the soul, he gives it supernaturally. He doesn't ask me the permission. It's given. It's already operated its effect in us. And independently from its capacity, independent from the capacity of the soul, it's given. You had the operation, say it comes from God, it already enacted in you deeply its fruits, its effects rather. Even so, likewise, without respect to its efforts of or capacity. So he doesn't lean here on my effort and capacity. It's given to the Spirit directly. Fabulous, good. God produces in it the effect that he desires by means of such things. So God already operated the effect. And he gave it his way, not your way. For this is a thing that is wrought and brought to pass in the Spirit passively. Passively means without the active intervention of the conscious will, or free will, if you will. So I'm not faced in front, I'm not facing a decision, shall I receive it or not? No, you see, you have a vision, no, imagine, a silly thing, no? You have a vision. If it is coming from God, it already operated the grace, its deep effect in me. So I don't have, in a way, I didn't have a say when it already produced this effect. But then it might drag me astray. This is why he says God doesn't give it often, especially the more material ones. God doesn't give them often because he doesn't want us to go outside. He wants us to go inside. So it's passive. Passive means it was given, no intervention from my part, and it was given. And thus its acceptance or non-acceptance consists not in the acceptance or the rejections of it by the will. In other ways, I mean, the Spanish is easier to understand, ¿no? Y así no consiste en querer o no querer, para que sea o deje de ser. It's much easier in Spanish, no? It doesn't depend on accepting or not accepting for it to operate or not operate, or to be or not to be. You see, it doesn't depend on accepting. It is as though, so here he takes an image, forgive him, it's an image. If it is as though fire were applied to a person's naked body, it would matter little whether or no he wished to be burned, because I am exposed, so I will be burned. You want it or not, your skin is exposed to the fire. The fire would of necessity accomplish its work. So there is no wanting or not wanting it, it will operate the same. Just so it is with visions and representations that are good. He says hypothesis, it's good. So how can we analyze it? Even though, this is underlined here, as you can see in red and yellow, even though the soul desire it not, which is what he's saying. I invite you to reject it, not to pay attention, just abandon it. Just don't lean on it. Look elsewhere. Look toward God with faith, in faith. Even though the soul desire it not, they work their effect upon it, these visions or representations, chiefly and especially in the soul rather than in the body. Here I would rather say spirit would be more precise. The original Spanish says soul, alma. So, but you understand that he rather means the spirit, which is the tip of the soul. Okay. Now we take maybe 5 more minutes and then we will stop. And likewise, those that come from the devil. So hypothesis, they come from God. Let us see what happens. Can we interfere? Can we stop it? Can we not stop the effect of it? No, we can't. He says, now let us, hypothesis, let us say that it comes from the devil. So without the consent of the soul, because if the devil does something, you didn't choose it. It did happen. It's out of your control. This is why it's called extraordinary. You can't trigger it yourself. Without the consent of the soul, cause it disturbance or aridity or vanity or presumption in the spirit. So if they come from the devil, they are supposed to create disturbance, aridity, vanity, inflating the ego, and vanity or presumption in the spirit. So, yet these are not so effective to work evil as are those of God to work good. For those of the evil can only set in action the first movements of the will and move it no further, unless the soul be consenting thereto. So he's stating a difference between the two hypotheses. They come from God, they come from the devil. He says there is a difference. When they come from God, they operate their effect. But if they come from the devil, they might be tempting us, but if we don't offer our consent, if we don't agree with it, nothing will happen. So we are safe. So there is a difference. Both come from a quote-unquote supernatural source, which means above our nature, above our capacity. We can't trigger them, but they don't operate the same way. God's one operates its effect. The devil's one will not operate if we don't want. So the barrier of our will is fundamental. And such trouble continues not long unless the soul's lack of courage and prudence be the occasion of its continuance. So because the devil brings fear, you know, as he described it, where is it? Disturbance. The devil creates disturbance, disturbs us. It doesn't bring peace. It brings disturbance, aridity, vanity, presumption. No? Okay. So he says, this is what he says now. So this trouble, disturbance, aridity, vanity, etc., continues not long. It won't continue. Why? Because I'm not offering my free will. I'm not saying yes to this apparition if it comes from the devil. But of course, we don't know if it's from the devil or from God. This is why it says better to reject it. Safer. Unless the soul's lack of courage and prudence be the occasion of its continuance. Because lack of courage means I'm not determined to reject it. I'm weak. So I'm accepting it. Say, hypothesis, it comes from the devil. So I'm not opposing it. I'm just going with it. Therefore, yes, the trouble will continue. This is why he said such trouble continues not if I stop it, if I say no. But if I say yes and then go with it, then of course the trouble will continue. But the visions that are of God penetrate the soul and move the will to love. You see, here is God performs more, is allowed, of course, more than the devil, and produce their effect, remember, in the spirit, which the soul cannot resist, even though it would. And more than, but what is that we cannot resist? It's the love of God. It's the urge to love. It's not to produce something bad. It's to love. So he says, reject it. So you are rejecting all that is not useful to you. But if it came from God, it already enacted this effect of increase of love, and this anyway you can't stop it. You can't resist it any more than the window can resist the sun's ray when they strike. Beautiful. No, you can't. If it comes from God, it has already realized its effect. Okay, I think it's clear. I think it's clear the difference between if it comes from God, if it comes from the devil, but the decision is the same. The decision, the outcome, our decision is absolutely the same. Remember it. I go back again and remind you, and then we will close here. He said, we must never rely upon them. The Spanish is emphatic. No, it says nunca jamás. Two things: nunca, never; jamás, never. It's like repeating never, never. Nunca jamás se han de asegurar en ellos. We must never rely upon them or accept them. If they come from God, they already operated their goods. None of your problem. You go toward God with faith, but must always fly from them without trying to ascertain. Okay, so
Jean,
thank you for your patience.
Jean, could I just ask something?
Of course, please do. Please do.
You said that if they're from the devil, it will produce disturbances, aridity, and so on. This kind of aridity obviously is not the same as when God withdraws himself from you. So by aridity here, do you mean that you can't settle to things? Is it more along the disturbance line? You can't pray or whatever because you're so full of this wonderful thing that's happened to you?
What he's trying to say is a classic observation. Sometimes people use it for discernment, but he doesn't want us to use it for discernment. That's the thing. Some people will go for it. No, usually we say that when something comes from God, it brings peace, humility, gentleness, meekness. When it comes from the devil, it brings disturbance, lack of peace, and of course, a pride. Now you are focusing on one word, which is aridity. Now take aridity as lack of peace. Take aridity as disturbance. I am disturbed, so therefore I don't have this connection with God. I don't have this peace and this movement toward God with faith. God normally brings, to a certain extent, of course, it's not necessarily always strongly palpable, but it brings a certain peace and humility in his communications. So this is what he's saying. So while you're talking about other aridities, which are the result of the action of God, which is the absence of milk and so forth. No, it's a different thing. Let me check the word aridity in Spanish, how it is translated. That would be interesting to see. Where is it? First one about aridity. Yeah, sequedad. It's the same. Sequedad means dryness. Yeah, arid is I mean, etymologically, I think is dry. Aridity means dry. So yeah, but dry, as you see, the absence of the communication, the peace, the minimum of peace that one would have if there is a communication with God, if it comes from God. But don't go further than that. It's the aridity that comes from the entrance in contemplation, which we studied together in book 1 of Dark Night. No, it's something different. I understand it looks like an aridity. I understand it looks like distractions and so forth, but no, that's take the 4 words together. Don't just take aridity and then forget about the rest. There is disturbance, vanity, aridity. So take the 4 words together. Where is the word? Disturbance, aridity, vanity, and presumption of spirit, of this in the spirit. So yeah, don't just take one of them. Okay, so let us thank the Lord for this teaching that St. John of the Cross is offering us, and let us pray for humility and ask Our Lady and St. Joseph to keep us, to give us a greater humility, so we can draw closer from God, because as St. John of the Cross says it in a very beautiful text also, he says, God is humble. God is humble. It's beautiful. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Thank you very much for your patience, and until next time.